How many of you folks attended the right management gig yesterday? I saw you there. I saw you there. I saw you there. Okay. Did anybody get a card from the dean folks? I had another thing I had to dash to, so I didn't.
I did not, but I heard that this person was in the
Darlene will probably have it.
Monopolizing the time. I didn't get a chance to talk to
Darlene will probably have it over there.
Actually, I've got that card. I can send the information to you.
Bravo.
Great.
Awesome.
And I thought
All right, any other questions regarding the recruiting event that we're working on? Okay, great, thank you.
I guess I'm up. So, folks, I want to reiterate, thank you. I like this dialogue that was going on here because you all are giving us feedback about what we can do for you, and we're not dictating to you, okay? It's a push and a pull, so just let us know. I'm going to be using an example later on in my critical thinking event that I'm doing here. Some of you know of. If you know it, it's kind of like a joke when I'm talking to my 8-year-old, don't tell the punchline, okay? But it's one that I used to teach a critical thinking class when I was in grad school. And I brought this down real to a half-an-hour window. And I want to kind of exercise your mind, if you will. It's a riddle. It's kind of an idea of being able to think critically. How many of you here, show of hands, have read Sun Tzu's Art of War? How many of you know what Sun Tzu's Art of War is? Okay. I would highly recommend that as a book, okay? I read it. It's about that thin. Okay, it was written about 1,500 years ago.
Mine's a lot bigger.
And well, then maybe you have it in a large print, you know?
There are two editions. One is annotated and one is not.
Okay, there you go. There you go. Thank you. Sun Tzu. S-U-N-Z-U. I think that's it. And you can Google it. You can find it. It's obviously not copyrighted.
Art of War.
Yeah, Art of War. And you'll find the book. You can find it in ASCII text. You can print it. Burn up some trees, and you'll have this thing. Well, the reason I'm sharing that with you is that there's always think about Aristotle and Socrates and these philosophers and so on and so forth, and they're kind of up there. But Sun Tzu was a strategist, and he had some amazing vision in terms of how to win wars. And let's face it, folks. Right now we are in a war. How many of us in the right management of where we're at, there's a class of 15 people and 14 stand up and they say, hi, I was with Sprint for 15 years and I was a program manager. So in Kansas City alone, there's 2,000 new people from Sprint that have been laid off. There are other companies that are doing that as well too. There's a lot of really highly qualified people out there. So what are you going to do? Yeah, exactly. And how do you leap against those? Because it's a war. You want to win this, okay? So you have to strategize and you have to figure out how to do this. So part of what I'm doing here is I want to show you all that critical thinking is critical, no pun intended, to being able to kind of get your arms around this whole job search thing. The word critical has a bad connotation. Too often we think of critical as saying, why are you criticizing me? In this sense, the critical thinking is not intended to be something like, you did something wrong. It's intended to kind of help you work through problems and come up with a clever answer. I need to get my notes here real quick too. Excuse me. There we go. So, what is critical thinking? It's evaluating information we receive and making a sound judgment. How many of you, show of hands, are parents here in the group? Okay. When you were raising your kids, or you are raising your kids, sometimes they make some really bonehead decisions. Why did you do that? Why did you jump in the mud? Why did you take this and why did you stick the butter knife in the light socket or whatever? I mean, they just make some. And so we've all, as we mature, if you will, we become better and better at critical thinking. The experience that we have makes us better at critical thinking. Critical thinking can has been seen as having two components. I'm sorry I'm reading from PowerPoint. That's one of my big pet peeves. I'm just kind of moving along here. There's two sets. There's a set of information and their beliefs generating and presenting skills. And the other one is the habit, or this general idea, if you will, based on intellectual comments and using these skills to guide your behavior. Okay? Wisdom, if you will. Okay? How many of you know somebody who's your hero or whatever, who's just wise? They can be even a young person, okay, who just has, show of hands, how many people in here know somebody who's just has got a wisdom about them? Okay, yeah, there you go. For me, it was my great-grandmother. You know, this is a woman who raised four children as a single mother during the Depression, working in a meat packing factory, but she still was able to save, pay off her house, and before it was cool to reduce, reuse, recycle, she was the queen of the green movement 80 years ago, you know, and so that's what I'm kind of getting at here with the critical thinking. Well, what are the benefits to critical thinking? And many of you got this already in the email that Vicki sent out, but it allows you to identify crucial issues and ignore insignificant ones. If I were to give you, how many of you remember those word process problems that you had in math, where it said you have a train traveling from Chicago to Kansas City, one train is painted pink, the other is painted green, there's clowns on one and there's elephants on the other, and the clowns are dressed in stripes and so on and so forth, and blah, 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 and there's all this noise, okay? And the only thing you want to know is how far is Chicago from Kansas City, okay? And how fast are the two trains traveling so that you can know where they're going to meet, okay? The art of critical thinking is cutting through all that crud, if you will, and being able to get to the core. So that brings me to my next point, and how you efficiently process and evaluate that information. A lot of people in here are product managers, project managers, analysts. You were a lot of times given either too much information or not enough information, but you were tasked with coming up with an answer. Okay, we want to know, what do we need to price this product at? Okay, so at some point you've got to put your critical thinking hat on and fill in some of those gaps. And you efficiently process those things. You draw well-reasoned conclusions from that, and you're able to defend what you're saying because of the experience that you've had. Looking around the group here, we have a mature, we don't have any kids here in the group here. And you all, that's one of the strengths that you bring to the equation whenever you're interviewing, whenever you're working, is that you have this experience and you're able to think critically. You have to also become more open-minded as well, too. So, for example, when I got laid off, I was completely alien to the whole social networking thing. And I jumped into that, and now I tweet, and I have a Facebook, and I've got my website up, and all these things, and I'm embracing these because if I don't, I'm going to be left in the dust. So part of critical thinking is also opening your mind to things that are a little bit different as well. Am I going at the right pace for everybody here?
Very good.
Good. Okay, accomplished thinkers versus beginning thinkers. And once again, think about yourselves versus maybe your kids who don't have the experiences that they've had. Or maybe if I worked for 15 years, I've been working with youth friends where you work with at-risk kids and they sometimes make goofy decisions. Accomplished thinkers can think quickly. They can recognize applicable data, like I said, the trains are moving together. They can formulate conclusions with less than complete data. Beginning thinkers, they try to mine through all this information. They get distracted with all this crud. Okay, so that's the main difference between the two. And they also begin to develop hypotheses and compel the test, and they want to try every possibility. Okay, and we learn to kind of say, okay, no, that's not going to work, that's not going to work, that's not going to work. And they lose track of the critical information, like what's the distance between Chicago and Kansas City, you know, and how fast are those trains traveling. Okay, motivation behind proper critical thinking. If the motivation is selfish, now Vicki and I were part of a pilot program. There's Carl, do you remember that? Jeannie Laborde's Influencing with Integrity, the different modalities. Remember that? Years ago, Sprint had a program. There's a renowned author, and her name is Jeannie Laborde, and she had a book and she had a program called Influencing with Integrity. And the operative word is integrity. So what I'm getting at is that you can be critical, and this brings it full circle with the whole Sun Tzu thing. But if your intentions are malicious, if your intentions are not benevolent, okay, they're going to come back to bite you. Okay, so you not only have to be wise, but you also have to use it with the open, kind heart, if that makes sense. If the motivation is selfless, then the conclusion is grounded in a higher order of intellectuality. I was really feeling very big words there when I was writing that. But basically, if your intentions are benevolent, your results are going to be better. Who are critical thinkers? Critical thinkers are naturally curious. I like to think of myself as being naturally curious. The best thing that ever happened to me was in '94.